Okay, so good afternoon, my name is Yesinia, and today I will be refuting against the claim that jewels are more addictive to most teens than cigarettes. So my opponent had 4 claims, and they were: 1, jewels are very well known and popular around teens and young adults. Jewels are much easier to attain and smoke more casually, and a lot of teens think that there is no negative side effect when they hit a jewel, unlike cigarettes, where mostly every teenager born in this era is aware that cigarettes cause cancer. And the last one is the FDA is trying to regulate the use of jewels among teens, saying that they are even targeting teens. So for the first claim, there is no statistical information provided on exactly how many teens are using jewels today. He did use the words very well known and popular. That to me, it just kind of made it seem like he was generalizing that everyone, all teens basically, are using them. And after doing some research, I found that data provided by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention on the estimates of current tobacco use among youth shows how, in fact, the use of e-cigarettes, such as Juuls, has increased in middle schoolers from 0.6% in 2011 to 3.3% in 2017. And for high schoolers, it went from 1.5% in 2011 to 11.5% in 2017. Although yes, there is a significant increase in that 6-year span, that is still a very low percentage of the young youth that is actually using this product. And also, he did mention his first claim that the Juul's e-cigarette was the first alternative to any nicotine product other than cigarettes, which is also false because based on the article Best Electronic Cigarettes of 2018, most e-cigarettes contain nicotine, ranging from as little as 3 milligrams per milliliters of nicotine or as much as 50 milligrams of milliliters of nicotine. And also there is other companies that also provide e-cigarettes with nicotine, such as the V2 Pros company, Halo G6, and MIG Vapors. And for the second claim, my opponent fails to provide evidence on the ways in which Juuls are easier to attain than cigarettes. An inference is made about Juuls being passed on by other teens, but provides no sources of how the Juuls were first obtained. Because Juuls do contain nicotine and essentially are a type of cigarette, as stated in the article, where kids getting Juul, by law, people under the age of 18 or 21 should not be allowed to purchase any tobacco products, meaning that Juuls aren't essentially easier to attain than cigarettes because you have to be 18 at least, or 21, I know in California now, to purchase them. And for the third claim, which was that a lot of teens don't know the negative side effects of the Juuls, he did mention that they do contain nicotine, which does cause addiction, but addiction is not the only risk that teens are taking. He only mentions the percentage of teens who did not know Juuls contained nicotine, which was 37%, but it does not include any of the additional health risks. As found in the article, What is Juuls and Does It Cause Cancer? By Megan Morris, according to a publication from Harvard University, regular exposure to nicotine can lead to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes, and can increase your heart rate and blood pressure, 2 factors that increase your risk of a heart attack. And nicotine may also impair brain development in adolescents, leading to problems like poor impulse control and attention deficit disorder. And for the last claim of the FDA trying to regulate the use of Juuls among teens, he did provide evidence of commercials being a form in which the Juuls are appealing towards teens by using young models aged 21 to 27. And he also states how the FDA is closely monitoring the Juul company. But he did leave out a significant part that is also the types of flavors that Juuls include. And in the article, the FDA proposed crackdowns on flavored e-cigs and puts Juuls on notice. It is stated how e-cigarettes, such as Juuls, are used to wean lifelong smokers onto less harmful nicotine products. But because of the use of young models and the fruity, metally, and creme brulee flavors, Juuls is failing their objective of its product being for lifelong smokers. The same article also states how the FDA has issued more than 3,000 warning letters and fines to retailers who illegally sold e-cigarette products to minors. And if the FDA does not approve this case any sooner, instead of Juuls being an alternative for lifelong smokers, we will only be left with a new generation of nicotine addicts. Thank you.
Well, structural stuff is pretty solid here. It's easy to follow where you are at any given point. On the first point, you do try to diminish the advocate's claim by suggesting that the use is actually relatively low, that they failed to provide adequate proof for how many people are using this, and they're relying on generic terms like well-known and popular to suggest that this is in fact an epidemic. And you actually provide better statistics on that. 11% seems like a pretty good chunk, but for example, you could maybe make a comparative to other things that teens do that are potentially dangerous. That if it's lower than drug use, marijuana use, if it's lower than use of alcohol, for instance, that would maybe be another way to maybe minimize the significance of this. You seem to acknowledge that it still seems like a lot of people are using this, which kind of goes in the direction of the advocate's claim. So in essence, at best, you are minimizing their claim, but potentially you're even providing a better documentation for that point than the advocate had. When the argument about it being an alternative to nicotine, it comes up, and it's going to move people to less use of nicotine, that sort of thing. I'm not exactly sure what you get out of this. The notion that the company itself isn't really living up to that doesn't help your position. It seems to be helping the advocate's position. The notion that it's easy to obtain, I do think you point out a couple of the restrictions that are appropriate, that there are laws that apply to these products, and in California, for instance, that those laws apply to the products at 21. So in essence, the kids are supposed to be prohibited by that. When they say it's easy to obtain, you're suggesting, well, there are laws that restrict that. Your assumption is that obtaining it legally is the main thing that we're dealing with, and I think that might be something that the advocate would dispute. They would probably say that they are obtained in a variety of other ways, and that's why the problem continues. Let me see. It was a little strange. The last 2 points I think are really problematic because the first one talks about how teens are uninformed, and you basically say, yeah, they're not just uninformed about how much there's nicotine in here, but all the other bad things that it can do as well. I'm going, well, how does that help your position? That you're in essence saying, no, they're really even more uninformed. I don't think that gives you a very solid ground for refuting the argument. I don't know what I would do with this if I was listening to it. It sounds to me like the advocate has presented a reason to suggest these are dangerous, and you've just shown that it could be more dangerous. So that's not really a contradictory claim. That's just elaborating on the advocate's claim. And I think that's problematic. And then we got the same sort of thing at the very end when we're talking about how the company perceives this, and you basically are saying the same thing that the advocate's saying, except you're not attributing it to models, you're just attributing it to all the flavors and other kinds of things. But it still comes out, these companies are trying to sucker kids into using this, and you're saying, yeah, they are. So that doesn't really deny the advocate's position. If there's no argument on these issues, then I think that should be your argument, that there's not really a lot of dispute that more people are using this, that they use it because it has these particular elements to it. You could maybe argue that it has no significant impact that the more people are using it, or that it's not something that people have to worry about, but your own evidence seems to suggest that there's something to worry about. So it's a little inconsistent as to what your position is relative to the advocate's position, and that's plenty confusing. Thank you.